Hi everyone, how are you doing today? Welcome back to healandlearn.com. My name is Zarina and I'm here with our newest member, Dhanashree Bhagavat. She is a psychologist teaching in the city of Pune, and she's also an angel therapist. So welcome. Hi
Thank
Dhanashree.
you. Hi.
So this is a very interesting combination. You teach psychology at a college, and at the same time you're an angel therapist. How does this fit together? How do you explain this to your students?
Start with myself. How do I explain
Yeah,
it to myself?
right. I jumped
So,
straight in. I jumped straight in, but yeah, we want to know about you as well.
definitely. Um, okay, so as far as my qualification goes, I'm a psychologist. I'm a clinical psychologist. But I've always been interested and intrigued by all these esoteric, mystic um, things that that are in the air nowadays a lot.
Mhm.
I was also interested in Indian philosophy and in philosophy in general, and to know about it. So I kept reading things, and what I realized is that I kept reading things. I kept getting certifications in the area of psychology as well as in these things like angel therapy, for example, or inner child healing therapy, for example. But what I realized is that there's this, when you really think about it, there's this minute link that I found between these two things. And I realized that, yes, there can be a link connecting these two. And, you can understand both as different terminologies for the same thing essentially. Uh,
You mentioned when I spoke to you first how you teach your students about the archetypes by um, sorry, who was
Carl
it
Jung.
with?
Carl Jung.
Ah, yeah, Carl Jung, right. So you teach about the archetypes, and this is how you make the connection to the archetypes of the angels and archangels, because they're in the end archetypes that you can see in different religions, right? We call them in Western Europe by the Christian names, but you have your counterpart in the Hindu religion.
Yes, yes. So what I always knew was that there is a connection, a definite connection.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was teaching Jung, I was actually conducting a workshop on Jung and archetypes, and that's when I realized that I have this terminology in psychology in the form of what Jung said to explain these things really. Let
Mm-hmm.
me start by explaining what archetype is in a short
Right.
way.
Yeah.
So, as I understood archetypes, it was you can imagine a mountain and you can imagine dried up streams on a mountain. Okay, those streams, at one time water flew through them, but now there's no water flowing really.
Mm-hmm.
But you have those imprints, physical imprints on those mountains, of those streams or of the water that once flowed in it. So archetypes are something like that, energy structures, which have the potential for energy to flow through them. But
Mm-hmm.
until and unless you connect to them, energy is not really flowing through them. And their archetypes are basically a part of collective consciousness. So they are and collective unconsciousness. So they are available for each and every one of us to connect to them, and so that the energy that is abundantly available for all of us in our collective consciousness starts flowing through them, and that's how you can access this abundant energy in your life, in whatever you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you say that, it sounds really parallel to this concept of angels, who are basically the representations of such forms of energy, such types of energy. So angels are represent different types of energies, different qualities of energy, which goes parallel to these archetypes, the understanding of archetypes.
Okay. So, as far as I understand, depending on which type of energy you connect to, you can call on a different result, or they can help you in different area of your life.
Definitely, definitely.
Mm-hmm. So how did you first learn to do this? Did you was it something in your childhood that triggered this, or did you see anything, or were you just curious in a mental way?
Right. So, as a child, you have these musings, you have these imaginations, which can be called wild, but as now people are finding out, it's wisdom actually. So as a child, I always thought that, one could touch someone else, and through that touch, one could heal the other person,
Mhm.
you know, just by the intention of healing the other person, and through some medium of touch or thought or whatever.
Mhm.
Uh, so that's what my experience was as a child. I didn't really think a lot about it. I just dismissed it as, some imagination that I had as a child. But then when I learned to connect through these angels, connect to these angels, or connect to people through these angels, I realized that that is essentially what I'm doing. So I'm putting my intention to connect to that angelic realm or that type of energy,
Mhm.
and I'm helping the other person to connect to that type of energy himself.
Mhm.
And then I don't really need to do much, because then it's the person and the angel working in direct connection.
Okay, so you actually don't mingle in their interaction. You just facilitate the connection between the angelic realm and the person.
Yes, merely playing the part of a catalyst,
Yeah.
and not interfering as much as is possible.
Hmm. So, what kind of results have you seen in your practice so far? Is there anything that you can share with us that is interesting?
Yeah, sure. So whatever I learn, I make sure that I apply it on myself, uh, in the as a first step,
Yeah.
so I know my way around it. Uh, Angels and presence of angels have helped me tremendously. It's like I feel like another life, a new life has begun, where I have all this support from all these beings who I really can't see, but they are so close to me that I can feel them and I can call upon them anytime I want.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I started with dreams. I used to have some terrible dreams and dream issues since my childhood. I used to sleepwalk, and there were many issues around. Archangel Michael was the first angel that I connected to, and
Yeah.
Michael is this archangel of protection. So he has this shield of protection that he just puts around you, and just surrounds you with his immense energy, very strongly. So in the beginning, I didn't really understand how he did it. I
Mm-hmm.
was just blindly keeping faith and just trying stuff out, keeping myself open.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, I started feeling his energy, because it got familiar. So after that, I started praying while I was in my dream to Archangel Michael, and he would just come
Mm-hmm.
in his
Mm-hmm.
own way, in different times. So many times, what used to happen was, I used to end up in dreams as well as in real life, in situations where I had to shield myself, I had to protect myself, because uh, absorbing people's negative energy came naturally to me, and I still really don't know how it happens, but that's something that happens to me, and I have to shield myself
Mm-hmm.
at many. So Archangel Michael helped in that a lot, and I started feeling more energetic and more energized
Mm-hmm.
even after I woke up from my sleep. So that's where in Michael helped me a lot. I've
Mm-hmm.
also worked with Archangel of Healing, Archangel Raphael. So he has helped me a lot with that. So, and these two archangels, I recommend blindly to people to try to connect to them on their own. So I have many students who come up with these different issues, and there's this student who kept seeing dead bodies in her dreams for last 3-4 years. And the moment she started praying to Archangel Michael, it went like magic,
Mm-hmm.
and she could sleep very well after that. And the dreams were gone. Her fear of encountering these dreams were
Mm-hmm.
gone, and she felt more and more energetic during her
Mm-hmm.
sleep.
Okay, so you actually when you're in India, you don't connect to the archetypes that are from the Hindu religion. You actually connect to the Christian archetypes.
It depends on the person and how his or her comfort levels.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
I just leave it all to the person, whether they want to connect to Archangel Gabriel or Lord Ganesha. It's really their discretion
Yes.
who they feel
Mm-hmm.
more connected to.
Mm-hmm. 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 I see. Okay, and so you're also a specialist on healing the inner child.
Yes.
In this is a you use the psychology techniques to do that,
Uh,
or
so
both.
uh, Different techniques I use: play therapy, kinesiology, psychology. A lot of catharsis happens. Regression is also done in this. So it's like a mixture of psychology plus the healing, energy healing techniques.
I just want to state to the people that apart from spiritually connected, you're also a very professional psychologist. Yes.
Yes, I try to be.
Yeah.
So if a client comes up and says that, and I feel that he's not really comfortable with the spiritual aspect, I am not really, then I don't push them into all that, into believing all that. I just take whatever their belief system is and try to work with them.
Yes.
Because there's this understanding that it's one and the same thing, whether you call it this or that.
I understand. Okay. So how would the session normally go with the client? Do you just ask them straight away whether they're open for spiritual experiences, or do you feel whether they are or not?
Okay. So to give you a brief idea of my sessions, how they work on this premise that you should, in life, like for example, when I look at myself, the first question that comes to me is, who am I? And the next question that comes to me is, what am I here to do? So what my purpose is. So what I believe is that if we follow this path from first trying to find out who am I, and then trying to determine what am I here to do and what I'm doing, and then align all our actions to that, then everything would go just perfectly. So what I feel is that when people start doing this, trying to figure out who they are, a lot of healing happens. And the problems that they come with for therapy, I'll try to look at them as symptoms and not really the root cause. So I find that the root cause is not knowing who you are and not knowing what you are here to do. So I go directly to that. Of course, we talk about the issue at hand, but there's this understanding that I share with my clients that we want to treat it at the root. So a lot of activities are aligned in my sessions, in my counseling sessions, which point at finding out who you are, discovering yourself, and along the path, a lot of healing happens. I also recommend with all this for them to try to stay with this who am I, with this quest of who am I, and try to energize themselves, try to keep them strong or increase their strength. So at this point, I introduce at the end of my first session, I ask them which method they would like to follow, whether they would like to sit quietly in a place every day for 10 minutes, whether they would like to work with any chants, with their breath, with any god that they particularly feel drawn to, or any angel, archangel. It's completely upon them. And that goes on parallel, so that you get the strength to really explore yourself and heal what needs to be healed as you go on in the therapy.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dhanashree. People can find you as soon as tomorrow, I guess, on healandlearn.com. You're available for sessions. And for those of you who are open for healing with a combination of many healing modalities, here's Dhanashree. Yes.
Thank you so much, Zorina. I'm really grateful for this opportunity that you've given me.